Hi everyone and welcome to a new edition of You Are My Boro with myself, Scott Wilson and Dom Shaw, speaking to you on the morning of Boro's game against Ipswich Town at the Riverside tonight. I'm going to be there. We'll have a chat through that. We'll talk about that game, obviously. But Dom was at Rockcliffe yesterday, so we'll talk about what he spoke with Rob Edwards, and we'll obviously talk all things new badge, which has been one of the big things in the Boro world in the last couple of days. I apologise right off on the start. I'm very husky. I was away in Riga with England this week. It's not the Latvian beer, I promise you. I got cold, Dom. I got cold and wet for the first time this year, really, in a football stadium. Winter is coming, I think. So if you go to the Riverside tonight, wrap up warm. That's the first bit of advice.
Tell you what, you can't fault your commitment to your trade. Trekking all the way to Latvia to watch a game. Maybe taking in 8 or 9 or 10 or 11 pints while you're there. It's
coming back full of cold. Yeah. That's it. But we'll
be
there at the Riverside
time of year. It is that time of year, isn't it, where you don't know whether it's fleece, big coat, hat. The hat's going in the hat's got to go in the bag now, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be big coat tonight. It's definitely going to be. I'm not messing about when I've already got a bit of coughing going on. So yeah. Right, let's get into it. Boro, new badge. That was obviously unveiled yesterday while you were down at Rockcliffe, I think. And you actually got to talk, didn't you, with some of the people who were involved in it. So I think the first thing to say is whenever a club does this type of thing, it is fraught with danger. We've seen so many that have gone so badly wrong. I've seen a couple of little grumblings about it, but I think the general consensus is the Boro have actually made a pretty good job of this, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a few messages saying they've nailed it. They've absolutely nailed it. And the overriding, I think with any, like in our job as well, I think you judge kind of big stories, don't you, on what people are talking about in the boozer, what people are talking about when they get in the office in the morning. And like, I go swimming in the Neptune on a Friday morning. All the fellas in there, big Boro fans, were talking about the badge this morning. WhatsApp messages last night, like, you know, various messages about the badge, and just like scrolling through Insta and whatever else, loads of reaction on there. Yeah, like you said, I did see one or two saying they didn't like this aspect or didn't like that aspect. That's fine. That comes with the territory, doesn't it? But overall, the reaction seems to have been hugely positive. And like you say, I think whenever you do this, you are it is dangerous, isn't it? It is a risky business because you accept that you're never going to please everyone. But I think Boro have gone the right way about making sure they please as many fans as possible, mainly because right from the very start, they've put fans at the absolute heart of this. They've been really clear, open, transparent, right from the off. It's been led by Matt Barber, chief marketing manager at the club. And right from the off, they were very clear and open with what they're doing, the time scale, how they were going to do it. I think they spoke to more than 4,000 fans, carried out 2 detailed surveys. And for what it's worth, I think it also matters that the guy who's designed it, Andy Patterson, and we spoke to him at Rockcliffe yesterday, is a Boro fan, grew up in Martin, moved to Normanby, went to school in Easterside, was a mascot at Ayresome Park with Tony Mowbray in the late 80s, has been a season ticket holder for forever long. So he gets it, I think. And when you look at the badge, and we'll get it up there, I think straight away it's instantly Boro, isn't it? That's the first thing.
Absolutely.
It's instantly Boro, but then it's the subtle touches. So the area between the lion's mane and the body is it's shaped like roseberry topping. The lion's tongue is in the shape of the River Tees from above the riverside. There's the white band running through. In the special edition one next year to mark 150 years, the 150 years at the bottom is framed by the detail from the Ayresome gates.
Yeah,
it feels very Boro and very Teesside, doesn't it? And I love it. I think they've nailed it.
Having been down there yesterday, then, I mean, what was the rationale behind it? Why have they wanted to do it first up?
Well, the 150 years next year, I think it's fair to say that the crest they've got now is not hugely popular. And the Boro were well aware of that. And they were also well aware with the 150-year anniversary coming next year that the timing just felt right.
Yeah.
But they knew that they had to get it right, which is why they put fans at the heart of it from the off. And in those consultations with supporters, a couple of messages overriding right from the very off was a return to the circular badge, that 86 crest, really.
Yeah.
And to keep the lion, obviously, I think the Boro lion's synonymous with Boro, isn't it? It's instantly recognisable. And it was funny, like it was only yesterday when we were sat at Rockcliffe and we were comparing. You don't normally get this at a press conference. We usually just come away with 400 words on an injury update.
Yeah. Which we're going to get to in a minute. Don't get me wrong.
Not when Michael Carrick's the manager.
No.
But we were comparing the two lions, the lion in the current badge and the lion in the one next in the new one. And I think when they're next to each other, you just kind of see how clean the new badge is, the new crest.
And I think that was a big driver for it as well, wasn't it? That in a digital age, you do need a very clean, pretty simple, really. And you see a lot of clubs going for that now, going away from the really intricate, fiddly kind of designs into something that is very clean, very crisp, very clear, easily reproducible in lots of different digital forms. Clubs need that nowadays, don't they? It's as simple as that, really.
And it was interesting because Andy was saying yesterday, so he worked with an artist called Joe Grogan, who I think's London-based now, but Andy is like known her for a number of years. I think they might have went to university together. And the initial design was handcrafted, and then it was, I don't know, like transferred digitally. But then Matt was saying that Boro also worked closely with Castor to make sure, like you say, that for Boro might be over the moon with it, but then how does it then look on the final product? So Castor have been at the heart of it as well. And Boro had a couple of shirts, just not obviously match shirts, not game shirts, but a couple of t-shirts there yesterday with the new badge on. And it looks class. It looked really good on there, to the point where I thought, man, if that was going spare, I'd love to
have one of them.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the red and gold next year is a nice touch for the 150 years.
Yeah.
And going forward, I just think it's very Boro, and I think that's great. I think Andy's nailed it, and he was great. So keep your eyes peeled, because we've got a big piece coming with Andy, the designer, on Sunday, I think, online, and probably in Monday or Tuesday's paper, where he's talking in real depth about how he got the gig, his reaction when he got the gig, the process of designing it, but then also, his family are all big Boro fans, his mates are all big Boro fans. Keeping it under wraps, like I was saying, to Matt and the guys there, like, what a job they've done for it not to get leaked. Because what it's like these days. I mean, everything comes out, doesn't it? So for Boro to keep it under wraps like that.
To be fair, that probably just shows we're not doing our job very well, because we didn't get an early look at it.
Well, we did, but only 40 minutes. It's barely 40 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah.
So no, I think well done. Boro. I think they've done a really good job on it. And as I say, the reaction, social media reaction was really positive, but actually the reaction from conversations I've had over the course of the last 24 hours, which is always a far fairer barometer, isn't it? Really, really positive.
So a good job on the badge. Are they going to do a good job on Ipswich tonight? That's the question, isn't it? Is Hayden Morris going to play? You were there yesterday. What was your gut feel on that?
Right, here we go. Here's a peek behind the curtain. We recorded a video yesterday morning, and it didn't end up going to air because we realised then we got wind that the badge was coming, and obviously at this point we didn't know it. Then there was the press conference, and we just thought it's going to be immediately dated. My feel at that stage was,
sorry, just jumping. That's going to be like one of those Beatles at the club in Hamburg, where like the lost tape of that will come out in 20 years' time, and it'll be like, oh my god, there's a You Are My Boro unseen. We
listed half a dozen players who Boro were interested in January. We talked about the summer transfer targets that might have gone away. But I said then, didn't I, on Thursday morning, my feeling at that point was that Morris would play. having been at the press conference yesterday, so when we spoke to Edwards, it was earlier yesterday, it was 12 o'clock on Thursday. Yeah. He hadn't seen Aidan Morris at that point. Morris hadn't yet reported back. At one point, he actually said, I think he might still be travelling, but he's due in this afternoon. He was due in for training.
Yeah.
The same can be said of Shanti Jansen and Sverre Nipan. He made a point of saying that those three haven't been back, but David Strelec has, and David Strelec has been back 24 hours earlier. With that in mind, I don't think Hansen would start anyway. He said he might have a shoulder niggle.
He's got to be bit of an...
I don't think Hansen would start anyway. But with that in mind, what he said yesterday, I think it'd be more of a surprise if Morris and Nipan played tonight than if they didn't.
Started anyway.
Yeah, started. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Strelec in. I think the other thing is, you know, why have you signed Alan Brown if you're not going to play him when your other midfielder has arrived back on Teesside 24 hours before a game, trained once, had a grueling journey back, played during the international break rather than train with the team?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I might be wrong. I might be made to look daft, but I think it all leans. I think the sensible thing is Brown, isn't it? Playing in midfield.
Yeah, I mean, without wanting to blow a trumpet, I was a bit more. I always thought Morris might miss out. To be perfect.
Well, yeah, you said, yeah, you did.
And I just think there's an awful lot of games coming up. Yes, this is a massive chance to hit the ground running again. It's a big old game against Ipswich. Get that entirely. But Boro are in midweek action. Then, you know, it's a busy spell this now between now and the last international break. And I just think when Morris has, you know, he played in 2 of those 3 US games, didn't he? Admittedly, the third one, he only came off the bench for about 20 minutes or so. But even so, he's played in 2 of the games. He's traveling. Yeah. And I just think as well, Alan Brown and Hayden Hackney will have trained together for the last week. A chunk of that will have been training designed specifically for the Ipswich game tonight. So, you know, surely if you're Rob Edwards and you've been putting in the work with Brown and Hackney together on how you want them to play against Ipswich, Aidan Morris is really good, don't get me wrong, but he's not Lionel Messi. He's not got to play. Do you know what I mean? I think I personally think Brown will play, and I think that's the sensible thing, but we'll see. I mean, you know, we haven't really seen Rob Edwards have to make this type of decision yet, have we? So it'll be interesting to see, both with him and Nipan, what their involvement is. I'm like you, I think they'll be on the bench.
Like you say, there's the squad depth there. Edwards has talked a lot. He was talking yesterday about how teams he's managed in the past, the team has picked itself, he said, which in some cases is good. You've got continuity, you've got the players getting into the rhythm, they know they're going to be in the team. But he said the problem there is you often turn around, look to your bench and think, right, how am I going to make changes here? How am I going to make changes game to game? I mean, now I think this is probably new. I think this is probably new for Edwards. I think this is a new challenge for him. And it's all right talking about that squad depth. You've got to use it, haven't you? And this seems like a perfect time to use it, doesn't it? What about Hackney? I mean, you mentioned Hayden Hackney there.
Yeah,
we did a piece earlier this week on the Echo for subscribers. Had things worked out differently in the summer, Chuba Akpom might have been playing in the red of Boro.
Yeah.
Hayden Hackney returning to Riverside in the blue of Ipswich Town. I mean, you broke both stories in the summer that Hackney wasn't going to Ipswich, that he turned Ipswich down, it was staying to Boro, and that Boro had shown an interest in re-signing Chuba Akpom. Let's start with Hackney.
Mm-hmm.
There is no ounce of him, is there, that's looking back now and thinking he made a mistake in the summer?
No, and I don't think that's either just because Ipswich haven't torn the league up yet. You know, I think even if Ipswich had made a really good start, I think we said it at the time, didn't we? Hayden Hackney's next move has to be either to the Premier League or to a Porto who have been interested in him in the past, or a Bundesliga club or a Serie A side. That's the level Hayden Hackney's at. Now, Ipswich might be a Premier League club next season, but they very well might not. And if he'd made that move, then, you know, he's definitely in danger of being a championship player for the next 2, 3, 4 years. I think, regardless, if Boro go up this season, clearly Hayden Hackney, new contract, Premier League start, go and do the job with Boro in the Premier League. If Boro don't go up this year, I find it very, very hard to think that they'll be able to keep hold of Hayden Hackney for another summer. And I don't think, well, I won't say any. There'll be very, very few Boro fans that would begrudge him that, I think, because he's handled himself excellently in the summer. He's clearly given absolutely everything to the cause at the minute. There's no reason to suggest that'll change for the rest of the season. If Boro weren't to go up this year and Hackney was to leave next summer, then I think it just feels like it's been a situation that's been well handled by everyone. And he'd leave at that point with everyone's best wishes. And I would like to think that if that was the way that the scenario played out, he would be leaving to the Premier League or to a major European league rather than a club in the Championship.
I think regardless, both decisions, I think, were a gamble for Hackney in the summer. Staying at Boro was a gamble, which I'll get to, and joining Ipswich would have been a gamble. I think staying at Boro was a gamble because from the outside observer at that stage in the summer, plenty of outside observers were tipping Ipswich to power straight back to promotion and Boro to fall well short of the top six. Now, had that happened, obviously nobody on Teesside wanted that to happen. Nobody at Boro thought that would happen. Not the Ipswich part, but the Boro part. But had that happened, Hackney might well have been looking at it and thinking, have I missed my big opportunity? Have I missed that window to get to the Premier League? Will I get that chance again? Because we've seen it happen with players, haven't we?
Oh, yeah.
But I think we've also seen it happen where players have got that move wrong. I mean, on the subject of Ipswich, Jack Clark went to Ipswich from Sunderland a year ago. 2 years ago, I think Jack Clark was the best player in the Championship. You could understand why he went to Ipswich. Sunderland were a shambles in the second half of that season. Ipswich had just won promotion. But if only hindsight came with transfers. He struggled to nail down a place in Ipswich's team last year. He comes back down, and Sunderland are a club transformed and have gone up the other way. Now, Hackney is in a position now where he might well go up with Boro this season. Yeah. And we spoke to him. I remember sitting down with him in March this year and talking about basically the idea of going up with Boro. And he said then, wait there, let me find it. I know I say it a lot, but that's the ultimate dream. To take Boro to the Premier League, that would be everything that I wished for as a kid. And then to play with Boro in the Premier League would be unbelievable. That's possible. Boro second in the Championship. I know it's early days, but that's possible. If Boro don't go up, it feels like the platform's there for Hackney this season. Edwards said yesterday he'd actually been playing through a niggle the last couple of games before the break. So take that out of it. I think in the first 4, 5, 6 games, he was excellent, wasn't he? As good as he's been. It feels like if Boro don't go up this season, the platform is there for Hackney to get the Premier League move. And like you said, I don't think, Boro are going to get mega money for him if and when he goes. Hopefully it doesn't come to that. Hopefully he's playing for Boro in the Premier League next season. But if that doesn't happen, Boro are going to get mega money. He stayed an extra year, like Stewie did. I remember Stewie Downing staying an extra year, really, didn't he? A year after he could have gone. And I don't think anyone will begrudge him it. He's still only 23. He's still only 23. I thought at the time it was, not just saying this now, being wise off the event, I thought at the time it was the right move to stay at Boro, to not go to Ipswich. I think it even more so now.
Yeah, I can't disagree with any of that.
And Chuba?
Chuba?
Yeah.
Well, Chuba was an interesting one because, so when the Chuba interest was there, it was at a time when Boro had their main targets, but those main targets weren't available at that very point. So Strelec, Bratislava didn't want to let him go before they'd sorted their European situation out. He obviously had European matches there. That was only ever going to happen very, very late in the window. Cali Sen, who Boro had already talked to Lausanne about. Again, Lausanne wanted to get their European season up and running. At that point, weren't willing to sell. I think Boro were pretty confident that those deals were possible further down the line, but they certainly weren't nailed on. So when it became obvious that Chuba Akpom was coming back to England, obviously speaking to Birmingham, speaking to Ipswich, I think the feeling at Boro was, this might just be a little window where we could push a deal through there, and that takes the pressure off having to do the striker stuff later in the window. I think in hindsight, it might actually be one of the best things that's happened to Boro that didn't happen. Because, like we say, they've ended up with Sene, they've ended up with Strelec, two much younger strikers, much more development potential in those players, you'd think, than Chuba Akpom. And Chuba Akpom's hardly setting the world alight at the minute at Ipswich. Now, it's early days for him. We know what Chuba Akpom can be at his best, but he was only really at his best for what? 3/4 of a season, really? Yes, he was brilliant in that 3/4 of a season, but put the rest of his career together, and do you really want to be handing Chuba Akpom a 3-4 year contract on the age that he is now? I can understand why Boro felt interested in it, but I also think it might just be the best for everyone that it didn't happen.
Because I think when Akpom left for Ajax, and that was a move that he couldn't turn down, wasn't it? Everyone understood that. When Akpom left for Ajax, the big question really was, is he a one-season wonder?
Yeah.
He hadn't got anywhere near to notching up the stats, the numbers that he did for Boro, the goals that he did for Boro in that season in any other season. He's done all right at Ajax, but I think the doubts have probably increased, haven't they, in those 2 years since? He has done nothing to expel the doubts, the questions about whether he is capable of doing that on a consistent basis. And the other thing is, like you said there, he's 30. When Boro was signing Strelec and Sen in the summer, it was put to us both, wasn't it, in separate conversations that they were a good. I think they're both 24. They're a good age. It feels like their best years are ahead of them. Well, you can't say the same about Chuba Akpom. That's nothing against Akpom, but he's 30. Again, that's not to say that he won't have great spells. He might have a few games and spells this season for Ipswich where
he might have a good 20 minutes tonight.
Yeah, but you're not future proofing, really, are you?
No.
With the signing of a 30-year-old Chuba Akpom who has only had one standout season in his career. And the other thing I think is Boro's attack hasn't clicked yet. Everyone would admit that. Edwards would admit that. But I don't think anyone is saying it hasn't clicked because Boro are missing an X or a Y. I think the frustration is the quality's there. The Boro have the attacking riches. I think the forward line now is as good and as strong and as quality as it's been since that Akpom season. Akpom, Archer, Ramsey, Force when he was flying, whoever else who was playing at that time. I think it's as good now in terms of quality. So I don't think there's any chance Boro get to the end of this season and we're sat back saying, well, you know what, had Boro signed Chuba Akpom in the summer, things might have been different.
No, because like you say, the question mark with the Boro attack at the minute is how do you get the best out of them? Where the best playing? What's the best combinations? How do you get the maximum out of those players? It's like you say, it's not, well, we haven't got an aerial threat. We've got no one who can get in behind. We've got no one who can hold the ball up. We need this, we need that. The players are there. It's like you say, it's just how does Rob Edwards use them? How does he get the best out of them?
The other big talking point, I think, over the international break, it's worth touching on just before we wrap up, is Bailey and Anton Palmer confirming they've left the club. So if you're not aware, Bailey and Anton Palmer were two academy kids who've come through the ranks. They've been at Boro since they were 8. They were in the first team squad on a number of occasions last season. I think maybe 5-6 occasions in total between them. Didn't make an appearance, but they were on the bench, and they were 15 at the time. Rumours have swirled, haven't they, for months that they were going to be
flying around, hasn't it?
Yeah, that they were going to be leaving. And like whenever we've done lives or whenever we've done Q&As or anything like that, we've always been asked about it. We've always stayed away from it, mainly because I think, the sensitivities, the kids, the 16-year-old kids, and we were unable at the time really to get a true grasp on what was happening. And you don't want to speculate about something like that. Well, now we know because there's been no confirmation from the clubs, but I think that's because they're 16 and they haven't signed pro deals yet. They can't sign pro deals. But one of the Palmer twins confirmed on Instagram earlier this week that they were leaving Boro. The other Palmer twin confirmed on Instagram later in the week that they were joining Brighton. So Boro were unable to prevent that because they're 16. You're not able to offer them professional contracts and you're unable to prevent them moving on. So there's nothing Boro could do from that perspective. What Boro can do in a situation like that is lay out why they think Boro is the best place for them. And from what we gather, Boro have done everything in the power to do that. I mean, what more can you do than put them on the first team bench at 15-year-old? You know, this isn't like we're talking about 19, 20, 21-year-olds who've maybe been knocking on the door for a number of years and haven't broken through. But for whatever reason, right or wrong, and we don't know the reasons for it, the twins, the representatives, the family, whoever have decided that it's best to move on. That's down to them. I think the frustration from Boro's perspective, from the perspective of championship clubs here, is, don't they need more help from the system? You know, when you put 8 years of time, effort, money, dedication into producing players like that, don't you need more protection? And Boro will get. So the way it works is the two clubs try to come to an agreement on a fee, basically, on compensation. If that can't be agreed, then it goes to a tribunal, and a tribunal determines how much Boro will get. So Boro will get more. Boro will get compensated for it. But still, you can understand why Boro and any other championship club in that situation would be hugely frustrated. I think frustrated, putting it softly, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think the frustration is twofold, isn't it? One, it's the fact that, like you say, you put all this time, effort, money, resources into developing these young lads. They've been in your academy, you know, for the best part of a decade.
Yeah.
Even though they're that age. And yet you don't get any, you don't see the end product of that at all. So that is clearly one massive frustration. And there's, like you said, there's really nothing you can do to keep hold of them once a Premier League club come in and the heads are turned. And then secondly, I think the frustration is that while there will be some compensation, judging on what previous tribunals have ruled, it will almost certainly not be what you might term the maximum market value. And it also means that Boro are almost certainly unable to put into the deal sell-ons, buybacks, the types of clauses that have proved so lucrative with Morgan Rogers, with Jed Spence. And that, you know, all right, you don't want to be selling your best young players, but as a championship club, if you're getting a lot of money and if you're getting the potential for even more money further down the line, if these players get to where you hope they will, then at least that's something to take home with you, isn't it? You know what I mean? The problem this time round is they don't really get any of that, and they don't have the players to be able to play and start feeding into the first team. It feels like something that football has to look at, doesn't it? But then, you know, I also do understand why you don't want 12, 13-year-olds being offered professional contracts and agents and everything that goes around that. So, you know, I can see that that's not a solution either, I don't think. But it does feel, you know, grossly unfair that a club like Boro puts all that resource into developing these players, and then before they've had any chance to see them through to fruition, they're whisked off by a club that's higher up the food chain. It feels very unfair, but I'm not really sure what the solution is.
To wrap up then, tonight, Ipswich.
Tonight.
Big game.
3 layers, that's the first thing. 3 layers, maybe even a scarf. I might even go the scarf if I'm
I don't bother with a scarf, but the hat's an absolute must.
See, I go scarf more than hat.
When you've got a napper like this one, it needs protecting.
There's a one for future podcasts. What do I think? I think 1-0 Middlesbrough. Hayden Hackney. Got to be 76 minutes. I think it'll be a good game. I think it'll be a tight game. I think what you've got tonight is 2 good championship clubs, well organised. They'll have a go at each other, but it'll not be, well, I don't think it'll be kind of rip-roaring, chaotic. I think they'll both be really well set up, well drilled. They'll know what they're doing. I think it'll be tight, but I think Boro can nick it. And you know, the fear from Boro fans is that the classic Boro thing, the textbook Boro thing is Chuba Akpom scores, isn't it? Well, let's flip it on its head. Hayden Hackney scores 1-0 Boro.
I said after the Portsmouth game, I think it's a good game back for Boro.
Yeah.
I think like the real sense of occasion. The Riverside will be bouncing, proper opponents. They're bringing a load, so there's going to be a real atmosphere there. Good team. I think they'll have a go, which I think will play into Boro's hands. But when I look at the fixtures coming, Sheff Wed away, fancy Boro to win there. Wrexham at home next week, fancy Boro to win there. Clearly, you've got to do that. But if Boro were to win those 2 games, I think a draw's a decent result tonight. I think if you get 7 points out the next 9, that's a good return. That said, after Portsmouth and after the 2 draws that come before that, what a boost it'd be just to get back winning again and to make us, we'd probably throw this about willy-nilly, but it'd be a statement win, wouldn't it? On a Friday night to go back top of the Championship, be it temporarily, to beat Ipswich, who were fancied by many, including myself, as the title winners before a ball was kicked this season. Like, what a statement win that'd be. I think it'd be such a boost.
Well, let's hope that's what happens. As I say, it's myself there tonight. So keep an eye on the Northern Echo website. Have a look if you can. See what I reckon. Ratings, analysis. Rob Edwards is obviously post-match reaction and all of that. There'll obviously be more reaction and follow-up stuff over the course of the weekend. So if you can subscribe to the Northern Echo website, then please do. We obviously massively support that. That is a massive, massive help to any of you who do that. There is the odd story that goes behind the paywall there, kind of featurey stuff in that, which obviously you have access to if you are a subscriber. Thanks for watching on YouTube. If you haven't already, then again, subscribe to that. Give us a like. Drop us something in the comments. Let us know what you're thinking about. If you're listening on the various podcast platforms, rate and review. Have a cracking night. Hope you enjoy it. Hope everything goes to plan. Hope it's Hayden Hackney's night rather than Chuba Akpom's. And we'll see you next week for a bit of a review of what happened. Obviously, a look ahead to Hillsborough and Sheff Wed and a talk about everything that's going on. But for now, have a good weekend. Thanks for watching. See you soon for some more You Are My Boro.